The devastation is massive. The livestock is gone. The livelihood is gone. Those farmers who depend on agriculture, that's all gone. And next year, prediction is it's going to be 10 to 20% more severe than this year.
What steps do you think we have taken in these last 3 years that may have helped to avoid that level of devastation?
A lot of effort has been put. One of the areas where there has been a lot of improvement on is on early warning, early action, anticipated action taken by the government.
Areas that are going to be affected every year, do you think we should consider them to be more uninhabitable?
It's purely about not letting people to go and build the houses into areas which are subject to floods.
There could also be access of food or facilities. Hard to make sure that the assistance reaches where it is needed the most.
It's never perfect, but it's definitely much better than nothing. You don't see that level of compassion and empathy for the other. Pakistan is really unique about it. Yeah, this one is riverline floods. I mean, I think we have to be careful with the word. I was thinking this morning, it's like, okay, we don't say it's because of the rain, but the water does come from somewhere. It either comes from melting glacier or because it's raining in the neighboring country and then the water comes to us. So end of the day, it does come from somewhere originally. So it is because of the rain. But it's us here, it's true, it's not because of... And I think I want to play with this nuance at some point in my next communication, the flash update that we do. Yeah, it's not necessarily flood because it's raining a lot, but it did rain a lot in India and the water does still come here. I mean, as a matter of fact, it is India today, but it could have been any country, right? Where the river coming from. So it is a climate change impact massively. And next year, the prediction is it's going to be 10 to 20% more severe than this year. And that is by national authority. They are predicting that. So next year, what we see this year, so next year they'll be even better, more prepared.
Yeah.
Than this year, but still we will have like 10 to 20% more devastation than this year.
These encroachments into the riverbed, that's also one of the reasons why, I think these devastations we see in the major cities as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your experience so far. Like, you've been in the field for last many days. How's it on the ground?
It started like since 3 weeks ago, I would say, where we first had these flash floods in KP and GB, both are in Shangla and Bunir. That is in KP. And that was not predicted because you can't predict nature in the sense. And here that's why we had a large number of casualties, unfortunately, within just 24 hours. It just came super, super fast and it went super fast and the area is mountainous. So then we take that to Punjab, which is a completely different story. One is because of the water coming from India and management of the hydraulics and etc. and management of the water flow. But in addition to that is the rain. Now, the more water you have, obviously condensation also go up, and then when go up, it has to go down again. And you have like cloud bursting. And so the two districts I visited last week and also on the way to Lahore, you don't have to go so deep into Punjab region. You just can see from the motorway, it's like all miles and miles and miles of farming lands completely flooded. It looks like you are driving next to a rice field, right? Where it has to be always submerged by water, but this was over submerged.
Yeah.
And when you go to some area like which are heavily populated, such as Sialkot or Hafizabad, and next week this Sunday I'm going to Jang. You see all villages just completely surrounded by water, no access from the main road. To go to your house, you need to take a boat, and it's not like a small boat where you can paddle for like 2 or 3 minutes. No, you do need to have a proper boat, and it goes inland for miles and miles. So when you're on the boat, you just look left and right, and you turn around, you just see water all the way. It's like being in a lake, but it's not a lake. Some places the water will recede, and some places the water will take longer.
Yeah.
Obviously, depending on the depth of that water, and also the topography of that town. So obviously, every city will be different to another, or every village will be different to another. But we do expect the minimum where some sort of water will start to recede is minimum starting from 15 days. That's the minimum.
Right.
And that can go to 4 to 6 months, depending on some location. Now the devastation it's massive. All those people, their livestock is gone, their livelihood is gone. Those farmers who depend on agriculture, and it's twice a year, they're harvesting, that's all gone. So now they just have to wait till the water goes and start again. And those people, even they will need some sort of means to survive for the next 4 months because they have nothing to sell, but they still have to eat and drink.
Yeah.
And to prepare for the next harvesting season, and also to put the new seeds back again. And that will come with a very quite substantial investment capital that's need to be catered for. And the government is doing a great job. I think if we did not have those relocation of people now, probably the number of casualties in Punjab for the last 10 days will be much higher than we have seen right now.
Right.
At the moment, the authority are talking about a little bit above 220 people, casualties in Punjab. Now, it's still a high number, don't take me wrong, but they did manage to relocate up to 4 million people. And physical relocation of these people, at least 2 million of them was done physically by the authority, either 1122, either by the Red Crescent, either by the army, either by PDMA. It's a lot. It's a massive figure. Imagine 2 million people that you move.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the logistic behind it. So overall, it's 4 million people relocated today from their houses. And those 4 million are safe. So looking at the scale of things, it has been a tremendous effort, I have to say, which we have not seen before.
Yeah.
And definitely from 2022 flood, even though we cannot compare 2025 flooding situation to the 2022 flood, which is purely based on rain and some areas completely inundated. It's not the same. This is majority of it is water coming, river flood line. So it's not comparable. It's not, but the impact is the same.
Yeah.
Whether the water comes from the river or the water comes from the rain, impact is the same with the population.
Livelihoods are lost.
People
lose their lives.
And those people who, in 2022, the Punjab was not so much affected by the flood. 2025 is the opposite. And next year, it will be worse. And that doesn't come from me. That comes from the authority.
Right.
That they expect next year to have the same than this year, but increase by 10 to 20% more.
Right.
So we have to prepare for that. And the authority are very much aware of it. And they're taking some action for this. But that's what it means to the people. It means to people that they will still have to wait between 2 to 6 months now to the water receipt start.
Yeah.
And knowing that it will happen again. So again, they will lose everything.
So in this time from 2 to 6 months when the water recedes, the longer the water stays there, it will also cause more problems for the community. So there would be some diseases, there would be, that health crisis as well in those areas, right?
For sure. We already have seen an exponential increase of waterborne disease that's been reported in the different clinics and medical camps. That number has really increased by 300% from the week before the floods to now. Now there's a high risk of dengue, malaria, cholera, and that is, I would say, our main priority at the moment is to keep watching, surveying on what's happening in this area and to take the measure about it. That's why the UN system and its partner, and especially with the government of Punjab, we're keeping a very close eye on surveillance. So there's the water, which you have to manage the control of the water, but also the impact it has on the immediate term on the population. Yeah. So waterborne disease is there. Whether it's going to translate to a more dangerous disease, I don't know. I hope not. And that is sanitation is super important. Giving clean drinking water to people is very important. Women and children have different needs than adult men. The specific type of food, specific type of nutrition that they must get. Now, the United Nations system is providing this support. I mean, there is a whole bunch of tons of medicine being provided to the government, to the Ministry of Health, but also and that also goes back directly to the authority in Punjab. There is also tons and tons of wash equipment that is being provided by UN system, like such UNICEF. The other one was WHO, and given to the authority, but also given directly to the national partner on the ground.
Yeah.
In Punjab, there are approximately right now, the figures estimate that over 500 camps, like we call them tented camps or relocation center. Those are organized by the government, and a lot of philanthropists, NGOs, local NGOs are providing food and water, and the authority is providing medical camps to those sites. But 900 medical camps, because that's what the number is, we have like different between mobile clinic, between medical facility. It's a logistical nightmare. And then having an additional 400 camps and each of them hosting between 100 to 500 people, it's again a logistical nightmare. And the region is big. So we are facing a situation which is chaotic. Chaotic in the sense not by the organization, by itself, because it's enormous. It's an enormous logistic nightmare that the authority has to deal with, and so the humanitarian actors have to deal with.
And how do you see for especially those who are not aware of it, so in this ecosystem, tell me a bit about the role that UNOCHA is playing in providing this humanitarian assistance.
OCHA is present at the moment in the majority of the districts that are affected in Punjab. We have deployed some staff, and those staff are looking after one division. And from that division, they cover 2 or 3 districts. And the first role they do is, first of all, to coordinate with the government, with the deputy commissioner in that district, and then to reach out to the NGOs and INGOs present into the area. Okay, how can we work together? And there are some what we call a general coordination meeting, where we bring the partners. Sometimes we do that meeting with the authority. But the aim is not to do everything with the authority, because sometimes we have to relieve the authority so they can focus more on the response from their side, and then we feed back to them. So what we do is a lot of coordination at the district level, but also at provincial level, and also at capital level, where we bring, so the different layers. So at the field level, obviously, are those technician, operator, emergency people. If you need something, let us know. We'll put you in contact with the right person. It happens, a couple of examples. One NGO was saying, I need some shelter because I run out of shelter. So then we just have to make phone call to the agency who specialize in that from the UN, and that will be IOM. Same thing, someone wants to have some water facility, drinkable water, or purification tablets. Again, we just put them in contact directly with UNICEF, who is leading on that, and then UNICEF will release. But also there's UNICEF and UN and WHO and IOM. They also do their direct implementation.
Right.
So it's a different level. We have direct implementation and then support to the national civil society that exists on the ground. And that goes on. I mean, I mentioned IOM, I mentioned UNICEF, but it goes on for WHO, goes on for UNFPA, for WFP on food security. So the whole system is mobilized. Right. Now, OCHA, we coordinate with those people. It's an information that we give and we take. And then by bringing the actors together in the same room is where you're able to avoid duplication and where you're also able to assist those people indirectly. We don't assist physically ourselves, but others do it. But we make sure that the information goes to the people. And since my staff are in the field, so they are the ears and eyes of what's happening on the ground. And then I feed this information to myself, we feed it to the headquarters, but we feed it also a lot to the authority here, but to the member state.
Right.
Without money, we cannot operate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this emergency is colossal, and it needs a large amount of money to be able to assist. I mean, I mentioned 4 million people affected directly, 2 million relocated, and the number will increase in the next 24 to 48 hours, because this is where all the 5 rivers in Punjab will join, and then they will travel to Sindh.
Yeah.
Now, measures have been put in place by the authority, what we call breaches, is in order to dissipate the water and then to reduce the flow of the speed of the water. So when it comes, it doesn't devastate everything. So some measures have been put in place. Now, no one can measure the speed of the water. And if it's going to rain or not, no one knows how much water is going to pour down.
Yeah. Whether
those breaches will hold or not, that's a different story. And we'll see. Hopefully, that's why you see now in south of Sindh, towards Sukkur and bordering with Punjab, you see the authorities also displacing hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And that number will increase. Hopefully, it will not have a massive impact in Sindh. We hope so. We just pray that it will not. We are either the moment are focused on Punjab, especially south of Punjab, where the needs are quite dire, to be honest, in terms of water, hygiene, shelter, health, and food security for some area, but also livelihood for what we do when the water is gone.
And in your experience, because we had massive floods in 22 as well, from then to now, what steps do you think we have taken in these last 3 years that may have helped to avoid that level of devastation? Or do you think we haven't been able to take the precautions as much as we should have?
From 22 to now, because I came in September 2022, so at the beginning of the onset of the floods, and actually I came because of that. No, there has been a massive difference. A lot of effort has been put. One of the areas where there has been a lot of improvement on is on early warning, early action, anticipated action taken by the government. And those early warning systems that are being put in place to measure the level of the water across different, but also some system, what we call the GLOF project in the glaciers, where basically we can see whether it's melting, not melting. And all of those elements, indicators or sensor that are put in different locations have managed to provide the information in real time. And with that information, we have been able to inform the population. The government has been able to inform the authority. And that has saved, I would say, thousands of lives.
Right.
Now, things like what happened in GB or in KP is difficult to predict. It's like an earthquake. But still, the authority is also looking at building the resilience of the community. They're putting a program in place, which will build the resilience, and also to predict this kind of incident by putting some barriers in those glaciers when they will be melting, because melting will take place. We are in an era of climate change. Pakistan is one of those countries that is, I would say, the most prone to climate change, and the effect is devastating in Pakistan. And unfortunately, it's not going to end soon.
And like you mentioned that we might be preparing for more devastation next year. So like what it means to especially like those areas that are going to be affected every year. Do you think those areas now we should consider them to be more uninhabitable and discourage people to continue living in those areas? Because like every year the flood is going to hit there, and if we are going to see similar devastation, so that is going to damage a lot of people living in those areas. So how do you see that?
Exactly. Those places, there are places in Pakistan every year that are flooded, every year because of the rain. And more can be done in those places. More irrigation system can be done in those places. That requires some specific funding, which the UN and INGOs don't have. It's infrastructure. Those places, we need to improve the irrigation system in order to receive this amount of water. In other places, it's purely about not letting people to go and build the houses into areas which are subject to floods, especially when it comes from river floodline. And the authority are aware of it now, and they are discussing about it. And they'll be talking to the provincial authority and to the deputy commissioner in that area. So now this area is not habitable, and then it's forbidden to build there or to go there. But that takes some time, right? Because some people have been living in those places for a generation. And if you take people out, you have to give them something else in return.
Yeah.
So it's a replacement of, from one house or one location to another. And I can imagine it's easy to say, oh, you should not live there. But then where am I going to live? And that will be a headache for the authority. But they are, from the discussion I had with the NDMA and with the PDMA and with the chief ministers and with the ministers in Pakistan, in Islamabad, this measure is being taken into account this time. Now, the other places like in Sindh where are subject to floods because of the rain, they need to increase on the water irrigation system, building of breaches, and that is infrastructure. And I think the authority is aware of it. Whether the funding is available to do that, I don't know. But there are definitely some area we can do better than we're doing right now.
And, like all these people who are living near the river and, they would have this option to either vacate from their homes, places that they have been living in for a very long time, or build more resilient infrastructure. That also comes like a greater cost, and at the top of it they might be facing these losses every year, which then makes it more difficult for them to do anything about it. So that puts the masses into, and especially those areas and people who are affected by it the most, into the problem of having that eco anxiety. So those areas that have been hit, people who are suffering, they would also require psychosocial support post flood. So are there any measures in place, or are there like any initiatives going on to address that issue?
Often we tend to forget the trauma when a disaster happens. And we, the UN and many of the NGOs, have specialized teams and skills looking at the psychosocial support for these people. Unfortunately, the first part of the trauma is we tend to assist people directly with some NFI and shelter and material things. The trauma, we don't see it. It's invisible, but it's there. It's in people's brain. There are plenty of activity that addresses those people. Again, that comes subject to funding and availability of the funds. Government put in place a small team. It's not enough because the population is vast and dispersed. The UN system have programs specifically dedicated for that, especially when it comes to agencies like UNICEF, IOM, UNFPA, who look at the needs of this one. And there are some INGOs. So the answer to you is yes. Psychosocial support is equally as important as providing food to someone. But it's not as easy because the trauma is huge.
And also, I think reaching out to all these people across the country might be difficult as well, because you need a lot of manpower as well. You need a system in place to provide that support to these people.
Indeed, logistically speaking, again, that is complicated. If people are staying in camps and they're residing there, that's easy. You can then, because psychosocial support is just not one session; it's several sessions, so it's repetition. So if you're living in a camp or nearby and there's a center, then you can take your appointment and go back and forth. But those people now are very mobile. Yeah. They are staying in host community with some families and friends or relatives, but then they will move away. So it's only when people go back to where they come from or around where they come from, then we can set up those centers in those locations. The UN will step up. The UN will be supporting, I can guarantee you on this one. Whether it will be enough for the large scale of people affected, I don't know, unless if we have a specific funding for it. But we will be working also with the federal government to allocate some specific funding for that sector or for that team, put that way. So at least we can have some centers for at least a short period of time, between 3 to 6 months, just to reduce a bit the stress and the trauma that those people have been going through, especially for children.
Children, people with disabilities, women. I think these vulnerable groups, they're hit the hardest by humanitarian crisis in general.
Definitely. Everyone reacts to a trauma different than others.
Yeah.
But everyone do react. And everyone needs that support.
Yeah.
So for me, it is extremely important that psychosocial support services is deployed across the country. And it's very important that the government and the authority of Punjab, but also the federal government, allocate the resources needed to develop that. Otherwise, it will have an impact on the generation to come, and it will be lagging for the future. And that will impact also on the development.
Yeah.
Already those people, when they lose everything, it will take them some time to rebuild. And when every 2-3 years there's a natural disaster like that, you just can't rebuild unless if you have a huge amount of money, that's fine, but many people don't have. And that is stopping or delaying the development of those cities for the longer run. So the short-term impact of a natural disaster have a massive repercussion on the longer term. And that is difficult to quantify and often is not quantified properly. So we always talk about resources, infrastructure damages, but we rarely talk about the damage that has been done on the people itself, because it's difficult to quantify. It's difficult to visit, to see.
Yeah.
It's a transparent disease, put that way.
Which is why, I think we are in that paradox that we live in the times where we need more global cooperation, there is a need for, to support each other, especially those countries that are going to be hit the hardest by the climate change. There is that need, but at the same time, we see, there is that more countries are like more getting inward focused, more nationalist. There is lesser support. There are funding cuts as well in humanitarian assistance. So how do you see, because like for a country like Pakistan that is going to face these challenges every year for something that it is not entirely responsible for, because climate change, it's a global problem, and but we are in that region where we are going to be hit the hardest. But at the same time, a lot of other countries will also be affected, and everyone, also needs to take the measures for themselves as well. But with this declining global support in some sense, in terms of funding cuts, how do you see what it means to a country like Pakistan in fighting climate change and making sure that it, survives in this process?
We look at it. I look at it at least from two different angles. One is from the humanitarian angle and one from the development angle. Yeah. And we talk about reduction of the humanitarian financing, globally speaking, but also we talk about reduction of the multilateralism as well, on why Pakistan is not getting as much financial support, because it's one of those countries that is the hit every year on a yearly basis. From the humanitarian side, we are taking some action, and that's what we are in the phase of humanitarian reset. And the United Nations is entering its 80 years in a few weeks' time from now. So what we are trying to focus now in working much closer with the national civil society, those local NGOs that exist. If I take KP, there are some NGOs from KP, originated from KP, headquarters is in KP. So we are trying to work much closer with them, empower them further, even giving them money as well to implement some projects, because the community and the first responder are always the people who are on the ground, not people coming from outside. So we're going to continue boosting those local civil society that exist, and we're talking to the member state and to the donors to continue boosting those people, those organizations, those NGOs, because some of them are doing fantastic work. Some of them need some advice, some management advice. It's normal. We are not all born to be expert on everything. So, and we are working with those organizations. So that is on one front. So we are trying to reduce the footprint from international presence, put that way, in a country, and boosting more local capacity, local NGOs, and the first delivery to be done by the local civil society. From the UN perspective, we're taking a little bit step back, and we're going to do it gradually over time, and it will happen over time, because we cannot hand over our savoir-faire that we developed the last 50, 60, 70 years for some UN agency, suddenly from next day to a national NGO. It will take. So we're going to phase out slowly, and then provide more capacity, technical support, advice, management advice, and et cetera, and et cetera. So that's from the humanitarian side. We have, as UNOCHA, and under the resident and humanitarian coordinator, we have a small pool fund, and we're getting some money into it. And that money, at the moment, we are giving it to local NGOs into those local areas. The UN get also some money as well, indirectly, from the UN and from different funds, and they work a lot with national civil society. Sometimes they work with international organizations because they have the expertise, but also they have the MOU signed with them. But they'll be working more and more with local civil society. Now, on the other one, on Pakistan, where it gets hit, and the funding it requires has to come from a different pocket, come from a development pocket. The good news is Pakistan has plenty of friends in the world. Pakistan is a country that is very much appreciated by the various member states. And one way, and despite all of that, it's true, the government is not getting the money needed to build all of those, to build what it says it's supposed to do. And that, I think, it comes to a bit of diversity into the project proposal that come from different provinces and from the federal government. Yeah. And there's a need to improve that coordination, and speaking at the end of the day of one voice. There's a lot of improvement has been done on accountability, on auditing, and verifying that the money is going to the right channel and is being implemented. There have been some success story about this. Obviously, there's a lot to do better as well. And one of the ways could be to partner more with the UN system into when it comes to developing an operational plan on how we can make those cities more resilient. And that can be done jointly with UN organization and under the leadership of the resident coordinator who speaks on behalf of the UN, and with those development member states, and come up with a plan and implement that plan. That's the only way I can see that we might make some progress. Otherwise, we make a progress today, next year something come hit, destroy everything we did, and we go back again 2 years backward. And that's what I've seen. 2022, we made some improvement, flash floods comes, destroy everything, and here we go, we have to go again. But on the bright side, things are different than 2025. We as system have improved. The government, the provinces have improved. We have a stronger PDMA. We do have a much stronger NDMA at the federal level. Information flow is much better than before.
Right.
Infrastructure is still lacking behind. And that's why we are pleading for and asking the member state, if you do want to help support Pakistan into developing those areas to make the cities and villages more resilient, it's not in the form of loan. It has to be in the form of grant.
Yeah.
And because we cannot live on loans, especially for disaster the country did not ask for.
And disasters that are going to be recurring as well for indefinite period of time?
Unfortunately, yes. At least for the next few years, for sure. I can tell you. I cannot, for sure.
And I saw like you also work closely with the, NDMA, PDMA. So when it comes to climate resilience, what kind of infrastructure they are looking into to make sure that there is lesser devastation in coming years?
NDMA and PDMA are advisory body. They are not necessarily implementing body when it comes to that. So they will give, based on the assessment and based on the analysis that they do, they feed back this information to the different line ministry.
Right.
Whether it's NDMA at the federal level, whether it's PDMA. But then it has to be, I would say, more listened. And when the PDMA make an assessment, we have to do that, we have to do that. And sometimes they don't have the expertise because this comes from the Ministry of Irrigation, Ministry of Water, and so the line ministry have to step in, supported by the PDMA. So I see where I can see some better improvement is to empower further the PDMAs, more authority, more diversity in different localization of the province. And I don't want to increase the number of expertise because there are line ministries in every province who are expert in that. But I think I would like to say that maybe the assessment that come from the PDMAs need to be taken more into account by the different line ministries and the different experts.
Right.
In my opinion.
But do you think like there is sufficient coordination internally to ensure that we are making those steps that are required at the present time?
At NDMA level, yes, there are. There have been some massive progress. From 22 to now, massive progress.
Right.
The 2022 floods has woken up many people. You take some examples of PDMA in Balochistan, trying to really fast track and advance into their response by using technology, by having some additional manpower, and by improving the early warning system. They're reaching out to member states and to donors and to the UN to increase their capacity. Same thing with here in KP. And so there has been some improvement. It's not enough yet. Those PDMAs in the provinces must be much empowered and capacitated to do more than what they can do at the moment.
Yeah. And so when there is this level of devastation, which is like, across the country, do we have to also do some hyper prioritization, like in terms of, which area you prioritize more than the other? And especially for a UNOCHA, when you're dealing with, multiple challenges within the country as well. So how do you prioritize somehow?
This is the hardest part of our job. It's the hardest part. We do it we try to do it at a different level. One is by doing some assessment ourselves on the ground. And secondly, we use statistic to see where the number of population reside in one place. I mean, sometimes it's easy. If you have a city with like 100,000 people or 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So the priority is done quickly on this sense. But on that, we tend to do an assessment first, and we try to do it with the local authority as well. So we verify our data with them, because also the authority and the government has much more people than us. The manpower is just like much bigger. So we don't do it separately. We do things separately ourselves. Some rapid need assessment, we do it ourselves because, we need to compile where we're going to send our aid, and then we can have to confirm with our member state that, okay, our aid is going to this location because they need some sort of accountability. But on the big picture, we do it with the government.
Right.
Now, prioritization of the area which are more important than other, it is not an easy job.
Yeah.
But we use a scientific formula where we look at the number of people affected, number of people living there, number of people located, number of people admitted to hospital, and with some sort of formula, then we can prioritize that this one is more than this one, especially when funds are depleted. And when we're not able to, we often are able to prioritize, but we're not able to respond to the priority. What we try to do is to make sure that we are not really duplicating.
Yeah.
So, and that's where we increase our coordination.
Yeah.
Listen,
Those people are going to assist that place. Can you please focus on another place? Some other time we try some other system is where we say, you know what, let's all work here. Because some people have different expertise, like on health and water, education. Let's all work here in one go, boost that place, and then move to another place. So it has a massive impact in one go, and then move to another place. But it's challenging.
Because I think in a lot of places where there is, humanitarian assistance, because it's not just one agency that is working within UN, there are multiple agencies, then you have many development partners as well. So local NGOs, there are, activists. And I think in certain areas, there could also be access of food or, facilities that could actually be utilized elsewhere.
Yes.
But I'm sure this must be really hard to make sure that the assistance reaches where it is needed the most.
It's not easy. What we do is we have, that's why we try to compile on the assistance that's been received by a village level or tehsil level.
Yeah.
And then based on the number of assistants and people reached that's been reported to us, then we can start saying, okay, listen, we believe that place has reached more than this place and the population are equal. So please, so we try to drag the attention to that location.
Yeah.
And if we have, which we have at the moment, the pool fund, and the pool fund depletes sometime and then we replenish it. So when we replenish it, we try to focus into, okay, go and work in this area. And if sometimes you have always some philanthropist or someone who has some bit of money or donation, they ask us, where do we go? So based on our database, we say, you know what, just focus on this area because this area has been received a lot.
Yeah.
It's never perfect, but it's definitely much better than nothing. And we can only keep trying. And it's not an easy job. So I would like to pay tribute to all the humanitarian workers because it's not easy. It's not easy to see some people in despair, and you would like to do more, but you just can't do more. And that message sometimes is difficult to talk about it to politicians. When you talk to politicians, of course they have their own priority, but when we talk to humanitarian, our priority is to save life, no matter what politics is behind, and we try to bridge that two worlds together.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but we want to pay a huge tribute to all those workers who have been really running around for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they will continue for the next few weeks to go as well.
And how do you see these humanitarians and volunteers in all of these efforts? How do you make sure that I'm sure there must be a lot of coordination required with the civil society and local NGOs as well. But how do you make sure that this manpower is utilized in its the best way possible?
By communicating and by discussing and by sharing our information, sharing our plan. That is the only way that we can ensure that there's some fairness into our response. The volunteers for me are heroes because they are the one who respond the first. And we try to be their ear in somehow. When they need something, we try to connect them with other people.
Yeah.
Logistically speaking, we can do better, for example, by working closer with, let's say, Rescue 1122, who are playing a big role, but even massive role in Punjab. But for the PDMA, we also have some manpower, is okay, where we define our plan. We say we're going to do that, and they define their plan. So at least we are not stepping on each other's toes. At the moment, we're in the phase of let's say, evacuation, relocation, life-saving, and some relief coming up. The next part, the next 2 weeks, is when people start returning back home. And that will require a much better and bigger coordination. And my plan is really to do that, to plan the return jointly in coordination and in planning with the authority, with the PDMA in this instance, in the provinces, because it's only then that we can use the minimum resources and funding we have to the best possible.
So with all of these challenges that lie ahead, because like no matter what we do, climate change is here to stay and it's only going to get worse. Pakistan, unfortunately, is in that zone that is going to be hit the hardest. And there are going to be challenges no matter what we do. What the future means in the face of all of these challenges that lie ahead of us.
For every action, there's a reaction. And what we are seeing today, obviously, is an experience of the severity of the nature and the severity of climate change that was impacting Pakistan. With proper measures taken, and some of them have been elaborated by the government, relocating people, building more dams, building more warning system, early warning action, there's a solution to it. And it just comes with a capital cost. And that cost needs to be absorbed not only by Pakistani government, but also by the international community and the friend of Pakistan. We know that people who are living next to a riverbed, those people have to be relocated and they have to be given a different location to build their houses. We know that some rivers need a better infrastructure, so to avoid to be flooded like they are at the moment. And what we have now, what we didn't have before, is we have the technology. And the use of the technology does give us some solution. But that comes, again, with a cost. So the next future, I would say next year, we might have more water than this year. We might have more flood than this year, for sure, according to the experts. Melting glacier is taking place, going to take place. But measures are taking place from now. So we have when we finish with this monsoon season in the next few weeks, we still have easily 6 to 7 months to prepare for the next phase, and you will see some results. And we have to come with some sort of national plan that the government of Pakistan established, taking into account all the needs from the different provinces, put all together, and with a good monitoring system, good framework, and monitor the implementation of those bridges, breaches, navigation, irrigation system. And that's the only way that Pakistan will be able to face this sort of extreme weather.
And any message that you would like to give to the humanitarians who are putting efforts on their own?
I want to congratulate all the humanitarians that are at the moment in the field, working and running around, because I've seen them with my own eyes. I used to be myself one of those who do that distribution. Stay strong and stay hopeful. And more aid will be coming, and a brighter future is just next door.
And you've been working in this field for a long time, I'm sure.
20 years now.
20 years now. How has the experience been in Pakistan compared to the others, helping people?
I worked already in this region before, and my experience in Pakistan, which is and it's one of the solidarity within the people and the kindness that the Pakistani people have among themselves, I never seen it before. We are not able to measure how much assistance is given by normal Pakistani person through to those people who are in need in desperate moment. I really never seen it before. It just does not exist. I never see it to the scale I've seen it here. And it's so large that we are not even able to measure it, in fact. Pakistan is one of those unique countries. You have the zakat system, and people do it from the bottom of their heart. And the solidarity is just enormous compared to some other countries. Even people who are very poor in Pakistan, you'll still see they will be sharing their meals together. Yeah. People will be opening their door. I mean, in Punjab, we have 4 million people who've been relocated, and only barely less than 20,000 people living in camps. The the rest of the population, the 3.8 million people are living in host community. You never see that in the world.
Yeah.
Modern societies will never do that. And many of the middle income countries, you don't see that level of compassion and empathy for the other. Pakistan is really unique about it.
Okay, so before we conclude, what's the best advice that you have ever received?
Ooh. Me?
That really something that really changed the way you think about things or like you see things.
When I moved away I used to work, my first job was with the Red Cross, International Committee of the Red Cross, where I was assisting people, myself physically. And then I moved, my first job with UNOCHA was with the regional office, and basically so far away from the people that we tried to assist. And I was just completely lost. I didn't know what I was doing sitting on my desk every day, sending emails, doing planning, and I don't see the beneficiary. And because a regional office is cover some countries, and the countries are reaching those people. And one day, one guy told me, listen, I can understand that you are a bit confused. You don't know, especially coming from the Red Cross, which we have hands-on in the field, and then suddenly you find yourself in the office 2 layers above. Is that just imagine yourself what you're doing is in your office is you're telling the other how they have to do it. And that just allowed me to suddenly change my mindset. Oh, I'm writing an email, but in fact, I'm imagining myself assisting that person.
Yeah.
And that really changed the perception and made me, I would say, like my job much more than I used to like it.
So it's more of, putting yourself into others' shoes and relating to their problems. Yeah.
Despite I'm sitting in the office, but making sure that I am in the shoes of the other. And that's really changed my perception, changed my mind, and changed my way of looking at it. I think if I did not have that advice, I think I would not have stayed in this job for so long.
Carlos, thank you so much for your time. And it's a pleasure to have you over, and wish you all the best for all the efforts that you're putting into, dealing with all these challenges.
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.